So my name is Joe. If you don't know me, I'm the high school tech integrator. I'm joined by Natalia in this session. Natalia will be moderating the chat, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Natalia Razov, and I'm a tech integrator primary for the elementary schools and Mitchell campus. I'm glad to be here, and if you have any questions, make sure you put them on the chat. Try to no answer to each other since we can miss some questions, and glad to be here.
Awesome. And then just a little different from the other sessions we've done, because this is, we're all in this group kind of together. At the end, if you do want to unmute and ask a question, we can have that more collaborative discussion. So today we're going to be looking at Jamboard. And what Jamboard is essentially like a whiteboard or, that digital whiteboard that you can use for instruction in a virtual setting. So to get to Jamboard, there are a few different ways. One way you can't get to Jamboard is through ClassLink. So I just want to throw that out there. ClassLink is not the way to get to Jamboard. So it's a little different than the other applications. The first option would be in any Gmail app, or excuse me, Google app, whether it's Gmail, Google Drive, whatever, you have the waffle up on the top right. If you click on that, it's not going to be one of the top applications that show up, at least not by default. So if you scroll down, you'll see there's a little Jamboard icon. Now, I should have prefaced too, you will have time to play around with this, unlike the other sessions. Towards the end of these 20 minutes or so, you're all going to be on the same Jamboard. We'll be on the same one together, working collaboratively on that. So anyway, again, we clicked on the waffle. I scroll down, and you can click on the Jamboard icon. If I click on the Jamboard icon, it brings me to that homepage for the application. So here I can see all the different boards that have been created or that have been shared with me. I can see that on this page. Another way of getting to Jamboard would be in your drive. Once you're in My Drive, you go to New, and then you go down to More. Oh, excuse me. And when you're in More, you might have a few different options here. I think I have too many. But when you go to More, everyone will have this Google Jamboard option. I think it's this orange icon right here. And then when I click on that, it'll bring me straight to an actual Jamboard. So it'll actually create that Jam document for me. So it's untitled Jam. And that's the difference. So if you click from the waffle, you'll get to the home page. Whereas if you go to actually create something from Drive, it will bring you straight into this Jamboard. So since we're here, we'll just start going over some of the features. The first thing on this left side are all the different tools that you have access to. Let me zoom in a bit here. Okay. Now, if I click on this, you have a pen, a marker, a highlighter, and a brush. So again, that's the top icon in that left-hand toolbar. And you can change the colors. And again, we'll have time to play around with all this. I'm not going to show you each individual one. I think everyone's pretty familiar with those four utilities. The next one is the eraser. So let's say I do go ahead, and I'm just going to go ahead and throw up my handwriting is equally terrible on the computer. So if I just wrote out that, and I want to erase something, we can use that little eraser button. Personally, I prefer the undo button, I'll be honest. I think the undo button works better because you can actually just get the individual, lines one at a time. But those are your two options for deleting things, whether it's the eraser or the undo button. Then we have the select icon right here. That is just, to select an actual, if you have an image or a sticky note or something on this document, you want to have your cursor selected, right? If we leave the eraser open and click on something, it's going to mess up, right? And it's going to delete all the stuff you have on there. Next up, we have sticky notes. So with this whiteboard, I think the one thing that leaves me wanting more is the ability to really type in like a text box. You can't actually use a text. There's no such thing as a text box on this Jamboard, right? It's either all handwriting, whether it's with your stylus or your finger, or typing in with a sticky note. So maybe in this example, I want to do, significant figure overview, and I just want that typed out. And we'll show a few different ways of using sticky notes. So this is what that sticky note looks like. You can make it larger. We can rotate the sticky note. And then if you click on the 3 circles on the top right, you can edit. You can make a copy of that sticky note, or you can delete the sticky note. Again, it's all stuff when you play around with it for a tiny bit. I feel like you'll be pretty comfortable with all this. The other option here, you can use different colors. You can color code it. This would be the best way of, I don't know, kind of hacking your way to a text box. It would be to create that sticky note and then get rid of any color. So we would go to this no color section. And then it will kind of look like we set up a text box there. And the other thing, this is kind of minor, but I did want to mention it because it at least bothered me. You can't hit enter and get like to a new line. So if I go to this section and I want overview to be on the next line, it won't work. So you either have to create a new sticky note for another line, or just put everything in one note. All right, next up we have this add image button. And this is probably one of the most beneficial features when it comes to Jamboard, in my opinion. So if you click add image, you have the ability to pick one from your computer, do a Google image search, get it from your drive, or even Google Photos. In this case, I am just going to do a Google image search, and I'm going to go to significant figures. You can see here, I have all these different options. Maybe I want to click on this. And I'm showing my bias here as doing science the past few years in summer school. So just bear with me on that. But now we have that image that appears in the document. This is one example of how you can use that. And we have our title right up here. So now we have something to work with. I'm going to take a quick pause as far as the features go and explain maybe 2 different ways that we can utilize this in summer school. Again, these are all suggestions. I think together we're all going to learn what works best, and I look forward to kind of hearing what other teachers are doing. The first way of using this would be, right, you're in a Google Meet with that student for summer school, and you just share your screen, and you're working with that student and going through this in that one-on-one setting, right, in that small group setting. The other option would be to record something, to pre-record, and use this as your whiteboard. So what I mean by that is, again, having done science the past few years, I know in the 9-lab curriculum, even though there's no more 9-lab, in the 9-lab curriculum, there was always a question when it came to significant figures. So maybe I want to be prepared for that, right? And my team of teachers, we want to create some resources for that unit. So we can go ahead and maybe make our own Google Meet and record the session. And we want to go through, and you can use this little laser pointer down here on the bottom, and you can walk through and explain significant figures, right? This first one has 2 significant figures because these zeros are trailing zeros, right? They do not count towards the significant figure count. So you could do something like that where you record it and then upload it to Google Classroom, as a resource. The benefit of that, right, is that it's a shorter clip. It's broken down for students. And if we are talking about limited data, that is one way of approaching it, if we can break it down in chunks. But again, I mean, we're all in this together. We're all going to kind of figure it out together. I'm not going to pretend like I have this all down and I'm an expert in this virtual learning. All right. Next, I'm going to go to a new frame. So if I'm done with this, I can go to a new frame. And to do that, up here on the top, you see this 1 out of 1. I can just go ahead and hit create another frame. Now I get a blank new frame. I can manage my frames by clicking on that 2 out of 2, right, that box up there. And then you can go through and you could reorder them. You could add something in between. You can make a duplicate of a slide if you have something that you want to work off of. But I'm going to go ahead and stay on this blank slate. So we went over adding images, sticky notes, the laser. Now I want to look at the background. The background gives you a few options. We have dots, right, if we want to just do a grid. We have the ability to add lines, like notebook paper. We have our graph paper on more of a grayscale canvas, and then a few just solid colors. So that's something to be aware of. It is an option there. I'm going to go through one more example on this jam. I'm going to title it Park Example Shared. Now, one way we could use this, let's say we want to do some type of interactive demonstration with this Jamboard. We can share this with the student, right? We can share the actual Jamboard with the student. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and share this with Natalia. And I'm going to ask her to hop in here in a second and show what that looks like. All right, and while she gets to this document, I'm going to have it set. I'm going to start setting it up. So again, this is just one way of using it. I'm going to go ahead and add image. And now maybe I want to do a coordinate plane. So I can search for a coordinate plane. I can find the image that I like. I'm just going to go with this first one. Now we have our coordinate plane image. Oops, I don't want to do that. And I want to make it larger. So now we have the coordinate plane here. And then we have a few options. So maybe we're going to type in a sticky note here. I'm going to put in place, or let's just put plot point A and B on the graph. Doesn't have to be perfect right now. All right. I have that up there. We can leave that right there. And then we can go ahead and add one more sticky note. Point A is going to be 510. And then again, I said you can't hit enter. So like I can't go to a new line here for point B. So I'm just going to type point B here. Point B can be -5, -10. Maybe I want to do it in a different color. All right, almost done here. So these are our points. If we want to create like that interactive, right, the draggable type resource, there's a few things we could do, right? Natalia could just straight up go into the document and actually write in point A, right? She could, and you'll see that's what she's doing. Awesome. So you can see her little icon shows up there and she has that point. The other thing you could do if you want to really, you know, some of our students need a little bit more direct instruction or, you know, resources. Another thing we could do is add an image. And again, this is a little different, right? But it's a workaround. So maybe I want to do the letter A. Okay, I like this one. I'm going to click on letter A. And now this is a manipulative, excuse me, this is a manipulative on this frame, on this Jamboard frame. So we could do point A, and we could do the same thing for adding. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And I did see, I know I'm overstepping here, Natalia. I did see a question from Carol. Jamboard is touchscreen. I'm not currently touching my monitor right now just because I'll probably X out of the meet or do something unintentionally. But yeah, you can use your touchscreen, your stylus, or any of that on this Jamboard.
Can I interrupt for a second, Joe?
Please do, please do.
So when you guys are in like you actually can use it as a whiteboard, as we use the smartboard here. But the thing is that it's not going to be touching the smartboard. The students will need to come and touch your computer. So just to be aware. Awesome.
Yep, that's a good point. And then speaking of points, Natalia did move point A all the way over there. So you can see, I mean, this is, I can watch her kind of work through this and we can work through it together. So that is one of the huge benefits of a Jamboard, right? It's sharing this, it's being able to post it on Google Classroom. And we will show how to do that as well. Okay, so we're just about done with the overview. I am going to go to Classroom now, and I am going to, excuse me, I jumped the gun here. We have a few options when we're done. We have a few options when we're done with our resource or our Jamboard. we have these 3 circles up here next to the share button that say more options or more actions. We can rename our document. We can download it as a PDF, or we can save the frame as an image. Well, what's the difference? Well, if we download it as a PDF, which I will do right now, you can see that it will download each frame, and it is something that you can upload. So that's a really nice feature as well. I know a lot of math teachers use that, smart notebook feature to record their notes. This is something you could do and save it as a PDF when you're done. You also have the ability to save the frame as an image. So it will just save this current frame that we're looking at, and it will put it into a PNG file. And then we can just remove it altogether. Like that would be totally deleting this document. And then finally, we can make a copy of the Jamboard. We can make a copy of the Jamboard. Then you see here, open on a Jamboard. Don't worry about that. There are actual Jamboards, like physical boards that look like a smart board, but we don't have those. And unless you want to go spend a few $1,000s, we probably won't have them. So you can disregard open on a Jamboard. All right, I'm going to hop over here, and I'm going to go, oops, if I could type right, I'm going to go to Classroom. Now, let's say I wanted to share this resource. I wanted to share the Jam out in a classroom setting. So why don't I just go with the class that I'm in right now, even though it's not currently, totally set up. We can go ahead here, and we can add this resource to our classroom. To do so, we can go ahead and, oops, not that one, too many tabs. There we go. We can go ahead and hit the share button. Now, when we hit the share button, it has this get link, right? So I'm going to go ahead and change this to anyone at Racine Unified can view it. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy the link. Again, there are a few ways of doing this. I'm just going to show you sharing the link. So if I do copy link, so I copy the link to this Jamboard. And now when I go to create this assignment in Google Classroom, I can go to assignment, and we can go ahead and add. So again, we go to in the assignment, on the bottom where it says add, we have the ability to add a link. And I can paste that link right in there. And then you'll see automatically by default, we get our options. And this is another awesome feature. We can make a copy for each student. We can make it so that students can edit the file, or students can view file. I'm sure most of you are familiar with all of this, so I'm not going to go too far into it. But you do have those options, even if you add it as a link. It recognizes that. In Google Drive, I found it's a little trickier to find your Jamboard files in Google Drive. However, you definitely can add them through Drive as well. I just prefer using the link. All right, Natalia, anything you want to add to that or any questions?
No, everything at this point is clear.
Okay, awesome. So we're going to go to this final. Oh, I just saw one pop up. I'll let you handle that, Natalia.
Oh. Yep.
Sorry, what was the question? I closed my mute.
I was going to type it. Yeah, Daisy is asking if you can put this as a resource or a material. So yes, absolutely you can. It's depending on how you want to use a Jamboard. If you, something that I was working with early learners, teachers, is that when you want to create kind of like a Khan Academy video, when you are modeling or showing students how to do specific things, you actually can create a video using Google Meet, using the Jamboard, and actually post it on your classroom as a material or as a resource. You can also share it as a material or resource, but just remember that if you want the kids to actually work on it, the best way to do it will be to make a copy for each student, so each of them have their own copy, unless you want all your students to jump at the same Jamboard. But you have to make sure that they have clear the objective of the activity, and they know that they won't be necessarily jumping on each other's assignment. So maybe putting the sticky notes and number your frames will be a good idea. Like student 1 is Amy, student 2 is Brittany, student 3 is Jennifer, things like that, so they can work in specific pages in the Jamboard or frames.
Awesome. All right, now I am going to put in the chat here, I'm going to share this link to this jam. There's just 3 slides. The first one is asking, how do you feel about not having any sports to watch for the past 3 months? Personally, you'll see where my sticky note goes. I'll tell you, my wife's sticky note would go in the good section because more housework has gotten done, and I've been a little more productive, but I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. The next one is just an agree to disagree. So I'm ready to be back in school buildings when this year starts in August versus, having to return virtually, right, and staying home. And then finally, this last one, how many seasons of TV shows have you watched since we have been shut down? I might lie about this one. I might not put the actual amount of seasons that I've watched on Netflix out of embarrassment. But just the point of this is just to kind of let you play around with this. We'll all be on it together. And you can get a feel for the different templates you could set up with students, whether it's a check-in or whatnot.
Joe, I already put the Jamboard on the chat, as you guys
Awesome.
can see. Type your name in one of the sticky notes on the first framework. So in that case, you guys know. Yep, just showing the example right there. Make sure
You unmute, Natalia.
I'm just seeing everybody.
Oh, okay. All right. And while we're doing this, I just want to point out, I do want to shout out to Michelle Ludvigsen and Dawn, who, have emailed some ideas. And we're kind of learning this all together. Michelle, as far as sharing these resources in Google Classroom and different ideas with summer school, I thought those helped me out a lot. And I know Iva sent out something yesterday to Jen Barncart. So I really do appreciate, everyone's ideas. Just because I'm a tech integrator doesn't mean I know, the perfect answer for how this summer school is going to work.
Okay, it seems like someone just erased a picture.
Yep.
And that's
good, because now we know it's a learning experience.
Mm-hmm.
If someone deletes that actual image, right, that background image, which is totally okay. If someone deleted that background image, they would have to hit the undo button. You could see I couldn't undo it. It has to be the person that actually did that on the document. Again, these are kind of things we're figuring out on the fly here.
There's somebody in there called Anonymous Leopard.
So some of the people that is here right now, this is actually a suggestion and a recommendation that I do for everybody. When you join any of the sessions, and that was even before, make sure that you guys are signing with your school credentials, because some of you have signed up with your personal accounts. And actually, Google Meet asks us if we allow you to come in. So we know it's all school teachers, but just for next time, if you actually can make sure that is your school account, that will be the best. It's also really good for us when you sign up with a school account, just because it's easier for us with attendance as well. Even though you guys type your names, sometimes people forget to type their names, and it's really difficult for us to actually identify that. And that happened by mistake too. Like sometimes your computer or your phone is linked to your personal account. So just to make sure that you always check that before you join a session. Okay.
And then I did see that someone said there were too many people on the Jamboard. Based on my understanding and Natalia and I's understanding, there should be a limit of 50 people on the Jamboard at a time. So I don't think we've hit that yet. So I'm surprised that came up. I'll look into that more. Michelle, you got that message too? Okay. My understanding was 50. Maybe they changed that. That was back in 2019 when I read that. So, things don't really stay the same from year to year. I apologize.
So that's something to take in mind when you're having a big class as well, that maybe you want to differentiate and divide and maybe say, like I say, maybe you say numbers 1 through 20 jump in the Jamboard right now. And then when 1 to 20 are done, then, 21 to 40 can join or something like that. But there are different ways that you actually can utilize the Jamboard.
I have a question.
Thank you. Go ahead, Jen.
Can you share it, like make a copy of it like you do Google Slides, and then each student would have their own copy of whatever Jamboard you made, so they could do that, so they're not all in there at once?
Yep. So if you share it via Google Classroom, you could do it that way. Make a copy for each student. The other option, like let's say you're not sharing it via Classroom, if you don't want to upload it as an assignment, you see I'm in my Omnibox or my search bar right now. I'm deleting all the way to this /, and I could type in copy. And then when I do that, I could actually copy and paste this link, and I can share it out, and that will force people to make a copy of this Jamboard.
Okay. Thank you.
Of course. I'm going to hop out just so other people can get in. And this final Jamboard that I'm showing you right here, this is something that Natalia and I will share out with everyone. Again, it's just some different examples of how you can utilize this. After this session, we will be sharing the recording as well as a few additional resources. And then on just a personal side note, I am technically on a teacher contract. So a teacher plus 10. So I work 5 extra days at the end of the year. So this Friday, I'll be sharing, I'll share it right now. I'll be sharing appointment slots for Friday for anyone that, just has any questions, whether it's summer school or whether it's just some type of technology in general. Maybe I haven't gotten back to an email or you want, a better explanation to something. Please don't hesitate to sign up. I'm happy to help. Just know that I actually am a teacher in summer school. My role is not as a tech integrator, just to make that clear. Not that I don't want to help anyone, but I'm going to throw that out there.
Amy has a question. She said, can you use the snipping tool to post a picture on there? Absolutely, you can. So that's something else that we're going to be sharing with you, like the 3 ways to actually take a picture from your computer, like anything that you find online and you just want to take a picture and add it to your Jamboard. That will be the same way too. So when you are using your Jamboard, you actually can add pictures from searching on Google inside the Jamboard without leaving the Jamboard. You can upload pictures from your Google Drive. You can also upload pictures from your computer. So there are different ways. But if you do find a picture outside of your Jamboard online, you can actually take the snipping tool and take the picture and add it to your Jamboard. Okay.
Awesome. And then I just shared the link to the appointment slots for Friday. You can go ahead and sign up for any 30-minute session. Again, I'm happy to help, even if it's with Odysseyware and you want to get more familiar with that. While that's not like my expertise, I'd be happy to walk through that process of what, unlocking tests and just that whole process from the teacher view and how it's going to work with our students if you're new to summer school. So at this point, we did cover everything that we had for you. I don't want to keep anyone longer than we need to. You'll get the full credit for this hour. Feel free to hang out here and ask any questions. Natalia and I will be hanging around. But thank you very much for joining us this morning, and have fun in your next one.